No, Jeremy, we're live now. You've got to come here and have drinks with me. Come on. Okay. Oh, sorry. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Drinks with Kate and hopefully with Jeremy. Oh, no, we've got alarms going off and winemakers haven't turned up.
Oh, I'm coming.
Oh, come on, Jeremy.
I got to get a glass. Hang on.
No, I've got one for you. See?
Excellent.
It's 5 o'clock and it's time for drinks. Hey, everyone. Here's Jeremy.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to my tasting room, Jeremy.
This is lovely.
That's good, isn't it?
This is the best place to spend 5 o'clock Thursday.
I know, absolutely. Well, at 5 o'clock, oh, look, there's Jill. Hi, Jill. Feeding the cats.
That's pretty much what she does every day.
Pretty busy. 5 o'clock, time to stop work, time to have a drink.
Fantastic.
On a Thursday night. Tonight, we're going to be drinking Robinson Vineyard
Oh, lucky day.
Pinot Noir 2017. One of Jeremy's favourite vineyards.
Oh, absolutely.
And we've already had, before today even started, I had an email from someone who asked if we could explain what a single vineyard wine is, what we mean by single vineyard, and why this wine is called Robinson. So it's probably a good place to start.
It certainly is, absolutely. So a selection of fruit from just a single site. The Robinson Vineyard's only 2.5, 3 kilometres from here, so not far away from Moorooduc home base. But this is really interesting, actually. This is made up of 2 selections or 2 parcels of fruit off Hughes Place. The main one comes from a vineyard block's quite unique, actually. It's quite different to the rest of his vineyard. It's slightly an aspect towards the east. It's quite cool compared to the rest. We picked this about 2 weeks, that parcel about 2 weeks later than the rest of his vineyard, simply because of the cool easterly aspect it gets and the protection it gets from the west. Really lovely sort of fruit, red fruited line that we see there that we don't necessarily see in other parcels. But that being the single vineyard wine, that's a really good exploration of what his site can do.
So why do we make it as a single vineyard wine?
Simply because what we want to do is explore what that character from Hughes Place is all about. And for us, seeing the quality that we get off this parcel, the expression of fruit, the tannin structure, and certainly the structure in this wine is so different to many of the other parcels that we take from Hughes. And we do. We take quite a few parcels of Pinot Noir from Hughes Place, but particularly for this wine, that structure is just so unique, and that's the point about these wines.
And where does the rest of all that fruit go that we take from here that doesn't go into the single vineyard wine?
Yeah, for sure. So if you've ever drunk our estate Pinot, a lot of it finds its way there.
2
Absolutely,
weeks ago.
Exactly. So you'll know that one well. But a beautiful site, still in this northern part of the peninsula. Slightly different soil types to the McIntyre vineyard. But yeah, as I said, the fun about these wines are seeing how different these wines are. Yeah. We're talking a couple of kilometres apart.
There's a little bit of history behind that in Australia we've had a tradition for a long time of just blending everything together to make the best amalgamate wine that we can. And the most famous Australian wine out there, Grange, is exactly that. It's made from Shiraz from a whole lot of vineyards from all over South Australia. They're not even necessarily the same vineyards every year. So they're taking the best fruit from the best sources and then blending them very cleverly together to make the best wine. This is the opposite of that we're taking. We think this is a really special site.
Yeah.
We think that we get different aromas and flavours from this site than we do from McIntyre Vineyard and other vineyards that we get Pinot Noir from. And we like to allow those flavours that come from that vineyard to show through in the wine.
For sure. The whole point of these, as you said, is to explore what each single site can do.
Yeah.
And exploration of that's the fun about this, the chance to see what fruit from this particular site has to offer.
And if they all tasted the same, then there'd be no point.
Absolutely. 100%.
And in fact, there'd be no point of really any different wine brands.
So true.
So cheers, Jeremy.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. So I hope you've opened that and poured it out as we were talking. Little swirl. Oh, you'll notice we talked about glasses last week, and I've selected the Pinot Noir glasses today because we're tasting Pinot Noir.
Funnily enough.
It's awesome, huh? And with this Robinson Pinot, what is it that you particularly specially love about the Robinson Vineyard, Jeremy? Is there anything in the way that it smells or the way that it tastes in general and specifically to this vintage, this wine that we're tasting in the glass today?
You're right. There's two parts of this. There's the threads that we see every year, things that keep popping up year in, year out, regardless of the conditions, and what we have known that wine to become.
Yeah.
For me, it's that spectrum of fruit, just this lovely, bright, vivid redness to the Robinson fruit line. But the palate's so different. The texture is so different in this wine. The texture is almost silky. And velvety. It's very different to any of the other wines we make. In that it's so unique. It's so easy to see that in this wine. That's something we see in, year out. The 17 a little different in that 17. It's interesting. We're going to talk about the 2020 vintage. Obviously, we're in the middle or towards the end of harvest now, but there's some similarities between those 2 years too. From 17. So it's nice to be able to actually look at the 17. The one big thing was some weather that we had in November over the course of about 10 days. That coincided with flowering and fruit set. And unfortunately, because of that colder, windier weather that we had, we saw a reduction in the fruit set that we had.
So less flowers, less fruit set, less fruit.
Unfortunately, the pollination of those flowers just didn't occur on the mass that we would normally see. So yields were significantly down. That goes for both 17 and 20. But what that does is give you quite a unique characteristic in that there's different size berries. The skin ratio is slightly different. Gives you lots of structure from that skin. You have a lot of ability to gain flavour and structure the tannins. That was something about 17 that was quite remarkable. And about that tannin and that line, I think it's really evident in this wine. That's the part of 17 Robinson I really like. It has a concentration, but it still has a purity and an elegance to it, which I think is the real signature of Robinson Pinot. So, we talked a little bit last week, and I've had some questions, and I have to also apologise, guys, that I've noticed that it's looking like chat's not working at the moment, certainly not working at our end. So when we get next to a computer,
unfortunately, we're not receiving any questions that you might be typing in for us today. So we apologise for that. If it starts working, we'll certainly start responding to your questions. But hopefully you're receiving us loud and clear. Anyway, I hope we're not just talking to ourselves.
That's right. That'd be embarrassing.
So what was I saying? What was I talking about? Oh, yes. Robinson Pinot. And we were talking about what made Mornington Peninsula Chardonnay last week special and why we thought it was unique and special. And I think this is narrowing down even more that, Mornington Peninsula, for me, Mornington Peninsula Pinot Noir, and we tasted the estate Pinot Noir a couple of weeks ago, and we didn't really talk too much about what was special about that in relation to the Mornington Peninsula. I think there's a real kind of cherry-fruited character that we see in all the Pinot Noirs that come from the Mornington Peninsula, but it's not just cherry fruit. It's cherry fruit and then some herbs and spices and some floral notes, depending on where the grapes are grown and what the vineyard is like. And for me, you get that beautiful red cherry fruit, a little bit of black cherry in there as well from 17 because of the concentration and the small crop. But you also get this beautiful floral lift to the wine, which is really
the floral notes. I'm just smelling this while we've been doing this. Those floral notes are really lovely impact on that.
It smells like roses and
lovely
a little
tones
bit of violet.
Beautiful part of the 17 and something to savour too. It changes with a bit of air. It's the one thing I've noticed even in the 5 minutes we've been. The wine is already changing with a bit of air. Well,
I actually got an email from Simon Spinks, who I think is tuned in earlier. Oh gosh, my alarm keeps going off. I don't know what's going on today. Looks like everything's going horribly wrong. Simon Spinks emailed me and said, when should I open my Pinot Noir, because I'm getting excited about the tasting and, how much does it need to be aired? And I think one of the beautiful things about Pinot Noir, particularly young Pinot Noir, is not to open it too early, because it changes in the glass as you're tasting it, and it opens up in the glass as you're tasting it, and that's part of the joy of really delicious Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir over any other red grape variety, I would say open it maybe half an hour, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 seconds before you pour it in the glass, but then let it sit in the glass and have a conversation and have a talk about it. and let it open up using the Pinot glass, as we talked about last week and we are doing today, you can see it's a much wider bowl than the other glasses that we were talking about last week, and that gives you more of a chance for the oxygen to get into the wine and the aromas to sort of develop and evolve. So it's one of the lovely things about drinking Pinot, isn't it?
I think it also allows you to look more deeply at the character of the actual wine, to see various aspects throughout that time. For me, it's gone from that floral thing. You start seeing that red berry thing. Yep. I think it's quite exciting to see it evolve over that time.
Oh, cool.
IT support going on.
So IT support, thank you, Jeff. Jeff just sent me a text message with some questions. Craig Goodman couldn't find one in the cellar, so had to open a 2016 duck. Well, that's never a terrible day to you. Hi, Richard. Look, Richard's in the background. He's feeding cats too, I think, or peacocks maybe. Peacock, feeding the peacock. Lots of animals to feed. Kate Bartlett, I don't have one on hand to taste, but Kate, hi. Next time maybe. That's okay. Nina's here. Michelle Dennis is here. We've got some other people here. So that's awesome. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Just briefly about that 16 too. I know it's a duck and it's not. The Robinson, very different year. 16, much warmer in the lead up to harvest. Again, the similarities between 17 and 20. We've just experienced quite a cool lead into harvest, and that was what 17 was like as well. I reckon that'd be remarkably lovely to taste, but just a very different wine. Absolutely.
Well, we might come back and taste the 16 duck sometime in the future. I don't think we've got any of it to sell, but we might be able to find a bottle in the cellar.
Good enough excuse to open one.
Absolutely. And also, just so you know, little bit of extra news for you guys tuning in today, we will be releasing the 2018 Duck and Robinson Pinot in only about 4 or 5 weeks, towards the end of May, and we'll be doing a special podcast. We'll do an online tasting and maybe taste a few vintages and, really push the boat out, go crazy.
Can I come back?
Yeah, sure.
Wonderful.
We might invite Richard back to actually talk about wine once he's finished feeding all the animals. Anyway, I also invited Jeremy in to talk to us about the 2020 vintage, which you've touched on, but sure. Is it finished? We
are awfully close. Basically, the last challenging one, I don't think with the regions that certainly weren't affected, and that was just due to the distance, us being far enough away.
Yep.
But there was other aspects of the season that were quite challenging as well. But again, one of the really wonderful things was this really mild lead up to harvest, all through. You talk about the bushfires and the climate that we had around.
How hot it was over summer.
Everything changed really quickly.
Yeah, and we didn't have a lot of that hot weather here anyway, did we?
It was like a roller coaster to
really
go.
Weird.
Exactly, and to have the last 6 or 7 weeks in the lead up to be so mild, a year doesn't come around too often, but one that we could ping the parcel that we wanted to pick that day and then have a breather in the winery before we had to get ready for the next one.
So you're saying it's been a bit of a slack vintage?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we haven't been as rushed off our feet as we normally would, but we have been very efficient. But no, I think because of that and the smaller quantities too, just a little break and breather gives you a chance to, just compare. Their quantities will be down like they are on the Mornington Peninsula. The actual standard of wine that's being made, particularly, in regions around this area, is really fine and really detailed. Lovely finesse already. And, we're talking about wine that's been in barrel for a week or two.
There's some beautiful smells coming from the fermenters and from the barrels already.
Yeah, absolutely.
During this vintage. Oh, Polly's here. Hello, Polly. Yes, good to see you. From our technical support, via our technical support. Nina wants to know what the value is of decanting wine and should we be decanting this wine? So decanting, there's two reasons for decanting wine. And one reason is to decant young wine to get air into it. The other reason that you would decant wine is if you've got a very old bottle of red wine particularly, and it's throwing a deposit. Sure. So in that case, you're going to deal with it very differently, but you're still going to use decanter. So with a very old wine, first of all, you want to take it out of the cellar and have it standing up for a few hours, preferably overnight, so that any solids in the wine have foam.
That's what they invented them for, I'm sure.
Stick your torch on your phone on and stick it on the bench, and then hold the neck of the bottle over the torch so you can see through the neck of the bottle. The liquid then you stop pouring. And you'll usually have sort of, about that much in the bottom of the bottle. If you're lucky, if there's a lot of sediment, it might be a bit more, but quite quickly and roughly, because you're wanting to get air into the wine. I would say a very good thing to do with a bigger red wine like a Shiraz or a Cabernet blend. Barolo always likes to have a little decant, sometimes a double decant. So that means you decant it into the decanter and then pour it back into the bottle. Having a funnel helps, because otherwise it's quite hard to get it back in the bottle because of the thin neck. But you're getting air into it. So with Pinot Noir, it depends on the Pinot Noir, but a lot of people say don't decant Pinot because it's too delicate and because it changes too quickly, and you miss the beginning of the wine if you decant it. Yeah,
getting back to what we were talking about with the glass, just opening up the glass, that's been the experience of being able to actually drink it as it opens up and having that first little snippet of what the wine's like, to see that change so quickly. I definitely wouldn't suggest that we would gain anything from putting this wine in a decanter at this stage.
We just lose that early kind of bursting of the flowers and the florals coming through.
And I think being able to see this wine too over a couple of hours in the glass, rather than it giving you everything from a decanter in 5 minutes, I think is it's more fun.
And that's actually our responsible service of alcohol message for today. Don't scull this wine over the next 15 minutes. Drink it slowly. Let it kind of evolve in the glass. Have it with some food after we've finished talking. If you've got some nice, so Pinot's really hard. It doesn't go very well with cheese, I don't think. If you've got a lovely, mushroom risotto or slow cooked duck leg or something like that, it's just sort of sitting on the stove waiting on hand. A little bit of duck and lentil lasagna or something like that. That would go beautifully with this wine. But I read an article this morning that a friend shared on one of the social media platforms, can't remember which one, about matching wine with potato crisps. I do think that Pinot Noir goes very well with just a plain salted potato chip.
Salted plain original.
Just plain original, no barbecue, no salt and vinegar, just salt and potato.
I'm not awesome. To try that tonight.
Yep. Delicious.
Your thoughts on this wine going to tomorrow? If you were to leave a glass in this bottle overnight, maybe two, what are your thoughts? I think it'll soften. I think that bright fruit and those bright florals will soften, so it'll become more, the fruit will become a little more savoury. You'll get some mushroomy notes coming through, and the floral notes, that sort of fresh rose petal, rose perfume, will fade to a more potpourri kind of a dried rose petal aroma, and it'll still be lovely, but quite different. And it's a really good thing to do because it gives you an idea of how a wine is. If you've got a cellar and you like cellaring wine, but you're not sure whether a wine's going to cellar well, it's a really good way to test whether that wine's going to cellar well. Because if it still looks good the next day. Oh, angry poodle. We've got a very angry poodle. We're talking too much, she says. She says it's time to go out for a WALK. If it tastes good on the next day, then it's going to cellar really, really well. And this wine, it's a 2017, so it's 3 years old now. Yeah. If you put that in the cellar for 10 years, you'd be really delighted with the results at the other end of that 10 years if you could be bothered. But it's such a yummy wine to drink right now. I think. Totally. I think cheers to delicious young wine, and cheers to single vineyard Pinot, Jeremy. Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming and having a drink with us today. Thanks for having me. It's been delightful. Let me just check. Jeff just sent me another email. Michael Woodward. Enjoying the 2013 duck of late. Yeah. Wow. Delicious. Rob had some opened yours last night. It's different. It is different today. So I do think drinking a bottle of wine over 2 days is not a dumb idea. It's a really good idea. And next week, we're going to talk about how you can actually open 2 or 3 bottles of wine in a night and not feel like you have to drink it all either that night or the next night. I've got a really cool little cheat. Oh, I like it. It's going to be fun. We're going to be tasting, what are we tasting next week? We're having a little Devil Bean Creek Pinot Gris. Oh, excellent. Yeah. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week with Devil Bean Creek Pinot Gris. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm sorry we weren't able to live chat properly tonight, but hopefully we'll be able to get the technology to work. We'll get the IT guru on that straight away. Jeff, over to you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. Bye. Cheers.